Welcome everybody. This is my action research project, and it's about literacy. So I got some of my colleagues from work here. We have teachers that teach kindergarten, first grade teachers, special ed teachers, anybody who would be impacted or could benefit from this information. So we hope you enjoy it and you do get something out of it. So I put together a Prezi, and I'll be just kind of moving from a few facts and a few information points about what an action research project is. So an action research project is a self-study for teachers. So the teachers asked to determine a problem and then seek a solution. So we were supposed to pick a problem that we felt really strongly about and that we wanted to solve. So I'm sure as teachers you've asked yourself many times, like, what could I be doing better? And everybody asks themselves that, and especially in education. So we've always done that. So my study had to be approved by the principal. It had to be approved by the children's parents. I had to pass a certificate for security purposes because it is a study and it is confidential, and all of the documents and everything after the study have to get destroyed. So it's kind of interesting that it goes that way. So I hope that you'll enjoy my findings today, and you'll maybe use some of these ideas that I've come across. The title is Successful Literacy Strategies for Emergent Readers. So I've done my degree there at Concordia University. And my project is all about strategies. So we want to plan or achieve a goal, and that's what we wanted to do in literacy. Because we have a lot of emergent readers, and we're starting the new Common Core, and we really want to do our best for them and pick some things that we know will help them. We know we can't do it by ourselves, so that's why I'm really glad you came to this meeting today, because we're going to be working together. We want to get to success, and we're kind of building on our strengths and helping one another, and that was the whole purpose of my project. So some of the skills that we were trying to teach the first graders for this study was questioning skills, partner communication, metacognition, and that's when a student starts to begin to think, wow, what am I thinking? I'm working. What am I thinking about? I don't understand this, or I really like this. So it makes it personal to the child, and they're better engaged. We do want them engaged. We do want their self-directed learning too, because they are able to do that. And actually, I found through my study, they do it better. That was one of my goals, to help my students become more self-directed in their learning. So here at our school, we've been asked to do Readers and Writers Workshop. So that was going on while my study was in progress. I picked just a little piece of that, the strategy lesson, which is this piece here. So we do things like mini lessons, active engagement, independent reading, and share and collaborate. Assessments is a big part of that tool. And each morning we're spending about 90 minutes reading. And then the rest of the time, writing what we've been reading about. So I think that's a good visual of how they kind of work together. What's our problem? Remember at the beginning we were saying that we had to pick a problem. This was our problem. Reading was our greatest concern. I worked with 2 other teachers on my team, and we talked about it. And we asked ourselves, if we could solve a problem, what would you want to solve? And my problem and my friend's problem, my 2 researcher teachers said our greatest concern is reading. These are just amazing figures. 37% of 4th graders in the U.S. fail to achieve the basic levels of literacy. 30% of 4th graders can't complete their homework successfully. And And this was really chilling for me. 74% of children who perform poorly in 3rd grade continue to do it all the way through high school. So by 3rd grade, if it isn't all in one piece, and they're at grade level, it's almost impossible for them to catch up. So that's a big number. When they perform poorly in 3rd, they continue all the way through. So I thought, these kind of captured some of the feelings of that failure. And we see it all around us, and I think that's why we said it was our problem. What about this school site? In 2013, the CST showed significant school-wide gaps. Most of our 514 students are below grade level. They need support. In 2013, 40% of the 2nd graders scored at the proficiency level or above in reading, so 60% are below. That's another chilling fact, to find out that 60% of the school population is below proficiency level. In 2014, grades 3 through 5 took the Smarter Balance test online, but there were no scores recorded. Many students on our campus are at risk for failing. So what was the purpose of my action research study? It was to determine which instructional strategies that are the most effective at helping emergent readers. So, some things people give you to do, they feel like a detour. I'm heading out, I'm trying it, I'm spending a lot of time on things, and they don't work. But what I was suggesting in my project was, I don't want to give you a detour, I want to give you a shortcut. And we think we came across some good strategies for getting there quicker and more effectively. Here's my research questions. So what strategies are the most effective for helping my emergent readers? And what effect will teaching strategic processes in comprehension have on homeless and economically disadvantaged students? This struck me too as a real issue. They're all around. These were my participants in my study. I formed a subgroup of 6 homeless or economically disadvantaged students. Most of that little group received free lunch, AFDC, and they lived at a homeless shelter. There were 3 boys and 3 girls. 3 of those children were ELL students. Now the homeless issue became a real issue for me. I had a lot of homeless kids in here. There's a lot on campus. There's currently 30,000 homeless students living in Orange County. I think that's really shocking. Where are they? They kind of blend in, and at school you just don't even really see, you don't know who they are, which is a good thing. Between 2008 and 2013, the number of homeless individuals doubled. That means that since we've had the bad economy, things have gotten really worse. Our school has 40 homeless students enrolled. 6 students in my class lived at a shelter or family drug rehabilitation residence. I had to get real with that. So I tried volunteering there for a month during my study. I went on Mondays. And I learned a lot. I learned about their situation, how they live, and it was a great experience. How did I do this? What was my method? 40 minutes were spent on whole group reading activities. 30 minutes were spent reading independently. 15 minutes were used to do a strategy group. Now that's where my study lied in this period of time. So I picked comprehension strategy skills. I used one-on-one conferences. The students read their own books. That's really different. When you're talking about a character, each of them has their own book. And that's really different than telling them that's the character. So they're starting to learn what they call metacognition. It's problem solving. How do I figure out who is the character? It's putting the learning on them. I observed and I coached and I assessed the students. They learned to read more difficult texts. the intervention. The goal was to include the students in authentic reading experiences. I implemented the study for 15 minutes, while the rest of the class did independent reading. The reading experience focused on the strengths and the needs of each child, so there was differentiation taking place. So this graphic is kind of showing me pulling the pieces and then thinking. Data collection. I did a pre and post survey, running records, phonics basic skill test, a DIPLS, and conferring notes, data and on-the-go records, and student work samples. Results. Most students really improved by almost 2 reading levels. So this was a 1-month study, the month of March. And later on in the program, I'm going to show you those results. A remarkable 105 words were learned over a month by the group. 70% of the students in the study passed the DIPLS benchmark, and 2 homeless students made progress in oral reading fluency, but not to a proficiency level. Conclusion. Our research team felt that our intervention was very effective, but we believe that our results would have been more reliable if we had a greater number of students involved. Because I was working with 6. My other partners were working with 13 and 4. That's not a huge number of people to study, but it was interesting. So what worked? I did something called a question formulation technique. This is what I was just talking about a minute ago. Trying to get them to understand how to ask a question. There was a study done by 2 Stanford researchers. They went to they didn't learn anything when they went to really high schools. They knew what that was all about. So they needed to go to schools where kids were really underperforming. And they asked the parents, "Why aren't you involved?" And the parents said, "I wouldn't even know what to ask the teacher. I wouldn't even have a single question. I wouldn't even know." And that's where their study began. Like, you need to be able to ask one question about what's going on. Like, that's how you learn something. So that was an interesting part of my research, the questioning formation. So I used some of those strategies. Of course, direct instruction. Close reading was new. I'll show something regarding that. Partnering, conferring. I used a lot of graphic organizers, anchor charts, sticky notes, assessments, and self-directed learning. This was, again, a priority. So that's the end of this portion, and I wanted to show you the results and pass around some of the work. This is the folder that I kept on my documents, test assessments, and conferring notes. So I'm just going to pass that around so everybody can just take kind of a little bit of a look through that. These were the results. Now, after I had to learn about running records and do several, I learned a few things I didn't know. For example, these are the results of my 6 students. The darker bar is the bar that tells you what their pre-assessment was in running records. So that included fluency and comprehension score. And then the gray line shows you post-intervention. I had 2 kids. They were 2 little boys, both at the homeless shelter, that stayed here. But in fact, it's not that they didn't make progress, but the next running record is harder. So they made a progress by moving up. But that's the thing about the running records, that even as the child moves along in the year, the books become more difficult. So, thank goodness it didn't go down. So they kept up. E and F were considered satisfactory. So these 3 students, or 4 students, were at grade level. Now I use these measures because we were looking at what are things that I could do in class that would help them achieve better literacy. They're emergent readers, so what strategies, and these were the best assessments I could use to show growth. So this was an amazing result. These are their Dolch words. They have 100. This was the pretest. So this little one, she had 100 grade. This one just went in the month of March from 86 to 99 sight words. Student 3 from 80 to 98. So the goal is 100. And we're not at the end of the year yet. So this is really positive for me as a teacher. And it's really the first time it ever happened. And I think it's because we spent so much time on independent reading, which is what they needed. Now, Dibbles, there's only an open window in winter and then as the school year ends. So I used the progress monitoring assessment because I needed one from mid-year, and we haven't done them yet. So I needed to score for Dibbles. So I pulled out the progress monitoring, and I used one of those. So it did have exactly what I needed, oral reading fluency, nonsense word fluency. So student 1, she's a pretty good student. So the cutoff is 37, 31, 72, so great progress, especially this little one here had gained a lot. So just seeing those gains was encouraging because the year's not over yet. So that was more evidence that this strategy is pretty good. At least we were getting good results. BPSTs. That's the basic phonics skills test. So again, some pretty good growth by kids, mid-year, and then end of year. So that was showing you things like letter sounds, blending, phonological awareness, and no sight words on that at all. The asterisks over there show that these 2 students, who actually were the ones who sort of just gained slightly, actually had a very good foundation in phonics now. So maybe I'm thinking suggestions for the future are just more reading, and that'll cause their running records to go up and to possibly move, Remember, they were at the same level, so we kind of want those 2 to move along. And those were my 2 homeless students. The third homeless student was right here. And she just seemed to just be a very good student. So she was high coming in, and she continued to grow. So how did I work that over a month? I had a special planning page. I was only planning for my strategy group. So I used the test and pacing guide, and I pulled out the character section. So I was trying to use different strategies, like try a depth of knowledge question, try a question formulation technique in here, do a close activity, sticky notes and anchor charts. I use graphic organizers. Now again, I think the interesting thing is that they were not in the same book with me. I'm teaching the concept. They're in their own books. So that was what made it kind of interesting. And this was so funny. A few things happened. I asked in the beginning of the study, what is a character? And they said, well, characters are things that come in and out of the story. You wouldn't know that. And those were really fun memories I had. And, I said, can you count how many times you see your character in your book? One little boy said I found it 64 times. And I never thought about that. But in those primary books, like the characters on every single page. So the anchor charts really worked. And let me show you a few things else I tried. So some of you will recognize that. That's from Teachers College. Kind of a planning chart for teaching points, so I use those. These are the web depth of knowledge question stamps. So I tried these, and what I found was, I thought, okay, I've got something, I really want to work on this. I tried it, and I thought, you know what, you can't do this just as a strategy. It was just kind of too plain and, it's not something you really taught. So I think a suggestion is you see these coming through, teaching the Common Core, you want to use this. It's really good to have you a copy of this for your benefit. And you're like, okay, I got to be in this mindset. I've been doing some kind of questions from, depth of knowledge level 1. Let's try it too. But I know some people are like putting them on sentence strips. It didn't work in first grade. It was something, I think, for the teacher's benefit that you can pull in. That was my experience. Teaching it got over very, very quickly. So you can see, can you identify? Now, some people would say, teach that over and over and over. So they hear that, can you identify? So that if someone asks them, they know what it means. I don't think there's a lot of mileage in that. There's a few that are a little bit better going into this level. Like, what did you notice about? It's more open-ended. What did you notice about the character? So there was special ones teachers would pick. I wouldn't do a direct instruction, but I would definitely throw it in when I thought it would help, and especially maybe for differentiation. So these were skills that you teach at each level. So for first grade, we were pretty much in this area. Identify, draw, recall, name the character, illustrate it, label your character, and then here, predicting story outcome. Cause and effect for characters worked, and show. And so we used a lot of sticky notes where we would go to the book and say, show me where you found that. These are the Common Core standards. They went along with Unit 4. This is something our school district used. And this is where I got my outline for my month. So I wanted to address each of these. So pretty much it started. Who is in the story right here? Use illustrations. Describe your characters with prompting and support. Compare and contrast. And so these get woven in during that strategy time. And then I just wanted to show a few of the survey I did using the district pacing guide with the vocabulary and questions for that month was pretty helpful. It kind of kept me grounded. Conferring notes. These were also on the district website or on Haiku. These were amazing. I found out that you could use this conferring note with this level, up to this level. This is the first grade benchmark, level H. But let's say You have a student that's not at level H yet. You want to go to something that's more appropriate. The words are more appropriate at a lower level. So you can switch out your conferring notes. And I learned that and I thought it was really interesting. Running records, I learned that. And then, let's just see, some of the graphic organizers. Close reading. This might be new. Close reading looks very closely at a text. So here, the students were told to underline and circle, find things, and this is part of the Common Core State Standards. When they say close reading, that's what they mean, getting in there. And this is just basically a collection of things I used. So now I just want to take a few questions. Anybody curious about anything? I know it's a lot. I had to get everything in there.
So you did first grade only, first grade students?
Just first grade, and just 6. 3 of them were homeless, and the other 3 not. But all of them were economically disadvantaged. So they were all AFTC kids, EL. Anyway, I just found that a lot of transiency this year. Kids moving in, kids moving out. So it was interesting the part that when I made that connection between the home life and what we were doing in class, it kind of made a difference to that group. And that was the majority of the homeless kids. So I worked closely, and it kind of I think it motivated them. Yeah.
How did you share the strategies that were working with the parents? Maybe
Right.
work on it at home.
Actually, that is very true. Some of this was in their homework, so especially on characters, story writing, some of these would be put into their homework. And whatever skill like we were working on that week, I would make sure that at least something from that skill would be in there. And the parents were very interested. They were. And I heard a little girl, she said, my mom is really happy that I get to do the strategy group. So that was real good positive feedback. And she was one of the higher achievers. So that was good. Just kind of like, I could tell I was making a connection. The parents were aware. So I kind of also thought that those were the ones that were raising their hand more often. They really did have a good knowledge base.
Did you find that the regular kids in the class wanted to be in the strategy group?
They did. They did. And I had other strategy groups going, but the parents had to agree. They were informed about the group. They had to sign permission to be in the group, and also I had to get special permission to help them at their shelter as well. It's not something you just walk in and do. I didn't know that. I thought it was just easy, and actually there's a lot of security and a lot of protections, and I think that's kind of neat. So it was a great learning experience, learning about wow, people really have rights to their privacy. Parents must be informed when you do something in school. Nothing's really taken lightly. Any other questions? Great. Okay, well, thank you. And I really appreciate everyone coming today. I really do. I can't believe that it's gone so quickly. I'm looking forward to seeing our